While candles were lit in Russian churches on Orthodox Christmas, the war in Ukraine showed no signs of pause. With the peace talks virtually stalemated, the fighting between Russian and Ukrainian forces has only intensified in the brutal winter months. In southern Ukraine, the port city of Odesa continuing to face daily emergency power outages, with water, heating, public transport severely disrupted. This after repeated Russian strikes on energy infrastructure, which have now become routine in this war of attrition. Ukrainian energy officials have said 25 high-voltage substations were destroyed in the region during 2025 alone, leaving tens of thousands of residents without electricity in the brutal cold. Emergency crews, meanwhile, saying that the ongoing attacks by Russia have only made repair work increasingly dangerous and difficult. Further east, Dnipro also came under attack overnight. Ukrainian authorities saying 7 people were injured, including 2 children, as fires broke out across residential neighborhoods. Critical infrastructure was damaged. Meanwhile, Russia and Ukraine traded competing battlefield claims. Moscow says its air defenses shot down hundreds of Ukrainian drones over the past 24 hours, while Kyiv says it struck a Russian military arsenal used to store and maintain ammunition and missiles. This as Orthodox worshippers across Russia marked Christmas on the 7th of January, with all-night vigils, processions, candlelight services from the far eastern city of Anadyrsk to Moscow and Siberia. President Putin also attended a Christmas service in the Moscow region, joined by veterans of Russia's military operation in Ukraine and their families.
И встречает праздник Рождества Христова. Владимирович также находится в одном из храмов.
And as the war rages on, the entire West united to once again reinforce support for Ukraine. Ukrainian president, in fact, met the president of Cyprus on Wednesday ahead of participating in the ceremonial launch of the country's presidency of the EU Council. Zelensky's trip to Cyprus comes after Tuesday's negotiations in Paris, where leaders from 27 European countries and Canada, as well as US representatives and top officials from the European Union and NATO, have said that they would provide Ukraine's frontline forces with equipment and training and back them up with air, land and sea support to deter any future Russian attacks. This was the 15th and the largest meeting of the so-called coalition of the willing, involving more heads of state and governments than ever. US envoys in person for the first time as well. In yet another example of throwing democratic principles to the wind, Donald Trump is now rewriting history. The 5-year-old Capitol attack in the US has been recast in a whole new avatar. In reality, thousands of Trump supporters violently stormed the U.S. Capitol building on the 6th of January 2021 to stop the Congress from certifying then-President-elect Joe Biden's victory. However, the White House has now released an official web page about the attack, branding the rioters as peaceful protesters. It has argued against framing the event as a violent coup attempt orchestrated by Donald Trump. The White House doubling on the U.S. president's allegations that 2020 was a fraud-ridden election, despite all evidence suggesting otherwise. It attributed the violence to former Speaker Nancy Pelosi's security lapses and accused Democrats of using this attack to consolidate power. A timeline has been inserted to try and portray a misleading narrative. For instance, it puts the onus of escalating the tensions solely on U.S. Capitol Police. The way in which protesters broke windows to breach the building and assaulted the police personnel has been conveniently omitted. Additionally, the website falsely claiming that no law enforcement officers lost their lives, whereas police officer, remember, died a day after being assaulted by the protesters. It also failed to mention that at least 140 personnel were injured in the Capitol attack. The White House also claiming that Pelosi had turned down Trump's offer to deploy 10,000 troops at the Capitol. It's worth noting that Pelosi has consistently denied receiving any such offer. She broke her silence on the webpage and lamented that falsehoods which ignited the violence continue to be spread. She stressed that the 6th of January serves as a stark warning to choose truth over lies.
Hostages, approximately.
Trump also boasting of correcting a historic wrong on his first day in office last year by pardoning close to 1,600 persons convicted or charged of offences related to the Capitol attack. All of this making you wonder, what does Trump plan to rework next as he embarks on recasting world dynamics? UK politics is in a flux as the new year dawns. A new opinion poll has put the Labour Party in a tight spot. As per a survey conducted by online research firm YouGov, Labour has slipped below the Conservative Party for the first time since the general election held in July 2024. And this poll was conducted from the 4th of January to the 5th this year. 19% of the respondents expressed their intent to vote for the Tories as compared to 17% who reposed their faith in the ruling party. Meanwhile, the Reform UK party continues to be at the top with 26% support. Among other parties, 16% of respondents backed the Liberal Democrats. The poll assuming significance as elections are scheduled to take place across multiple local bodies in the UK later this year. The last time when Labour received such a low level of support was in October 2025. Meanwhile, the clamour for Reform UK has also declined in comparison to last year. However, the UK Prime Minister is putting up a brave front. In a cabinet meeting on Tuesday, he told his colleagues to ignore the poll ratings. He told his ministers that governments lose only when they lack belief and not because of a dip in polls. Starmer urged them to focus on improving the cost of living and deliver a tangible change on the ground. He also trained his guns on Reform UK party, alleging that it was capitalising on grievance and divide in the society. Despite the UK Prime Minister's confidence, the electoral map of the UK looking increasingly fragmented if these polls become a reality in the upcoming months.